Hi, Chinwe.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's so good to connect finally. We didn't get to meet in person at Africa Tech.
I know.
So thank you so much for giving me the time and having this conversation. I'm super excited. You're very welcome. So, welcome to the Making It Matter podcast. Today, I'm really excited to talk to you about Installer, but also about you and your journey to build Installer. So, and what kind of led you there, and your purpose, and why this is something that you're so passionate about and working on. So, yeah, excited to get into it. So, let's talk a little bit first about Installer itself. And you are the CEO and founder of Installer. So, what led you to create the business that is Installer?
Thank you so much, Megan. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about me and my work. So honestly, Installer was born out of a very personal place. So I was born in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. I don't know if you know much about Nigeria. So the Niger Delta region is the rich oil region of Nigeria. Right. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
where the whole oil, that powers the economy and the country comes from. But it's a very poor region as well. The people, in terms of empowerment, access to opportunity for the locals. So this was where I was born to a single mother. So I saw firsthand how the lack of access to energy, the lack of access to income, the lack of access to opportunity affected even the people around me. So my mom, my aunties, growing up. And,
Mm.
I think that, really struck something in me, even growing up as a child. And then later on in my corporate career in human resources, working in the renewable energy sector, I realized something powerful was beginning to happen across Africa, right? And this is the energy revolution that we're beginning to see, the clean energy revolution. And working in HR, I also saw that there was a big gap in the workforce. There were no people to meet this demand that we're increasingly seeing coming into Africa. Data was
Mhm.
showing that a lot of investment was coming in, but the actual people to do the work we don't have. And I think it was a light bulb moment. I was like, yeah, so the power of the sun can only not solve the electricity challenges, but can also create jobs for young people. So 40% of our youthful population are either unemployed or underemployed. Young people, even when they're educated, don't really have a lot of stuff to do. Then there are also a
Mm.
lot of other pool of people that nobody seemed to be thinking about as well. So yeah, so this was why we founded Installer, a workplace to help deliver, grow that workforce, which at the same time would help bring clean energy to communities, but also create an opportunity for people to earn, for people to train, and have an income really. And I think this just lit a fire, and we started Installer, started building the platform, and beginning to create, identify the workforce that existed, and also began to train some more. So really, I think Installer aligns with my purpose. And when I think of my journey, all of my work experiences, my education, I think it all comes together in the work I do today. And then I'm beginning to say, okay, this was why that happened 10 years ago, or this was why
Right.
that happened 15 years ago. I think it's just coming together. And really, Installer is not just about, creating a business. It's really a movement for me, a movement to empower young Africans, and also to help with the environment as well.
Amazing. So let's talk a little bit about Installer for those that are maybe listening and don't know exactly what it is that you guys do. But I'm also interested to explore in a minute your transition from corporate to starting your own thing, because that's something that I'm kind of working on at the moment, and I'm really interested to hear kind of how you transitioned into that and the journey that was. But let's talk firstly about Installer. In most basic terms, what is Installer for those that are listening?
Yeah. Okay. So really, Installer, I think we've been described as an Uber for the solar sector, right? So just to explain a little bit of the problem, then I will discuss the solution. The problem in Africa is there are 600 million people on this continent who live without electricity. And there are also, I mean, in Nigeria, and I think it's the same ratio across the continent, 40% youth unemployment, right? Now, I also mentioned that fortunately for us as a continent, we're seeing investments coming into the sector because we have the sun in abundance. So clean energy seems to be a good place, a good sweet spot for us to solve the energy challenges. But we don't have the people to do the work that's required. So InstallHer is basically a platform where we're connecting skilled technicians who we have either trained or identified if they've been trained, prior to now. And we're aggregating them on this platform and connecting them to solar projects on demand. Because typically the struggle for solar companies is, so solar companies struggle with two things. They struggle with the skilled workforce at the right location, right? So typically they will have in-house engineers and they will move them from one place to another, which then is too expensive for them to sustain long term. So there's that challenge of finding the right people and also the cost. So on our platform, a solar company who has a project, and their office is far away from the project location, sometimes people are traveling hundreds of kilometers to go deploy clean energy. So what we're saying to the solar companies is on our platform, you will find somebody skilled around your project location. So that way, the logistics cost is cut out. The project efficiency is increased because then it's easier for that same person who installed that system to also maintain it in the long run. So really, this is it. We're building that workforce behind Africa's energy transition to support Africa's energy transition. And like I said, think of us as an Uber for solar, where we're matching talent to project locations on demand. Yeah. So we're also not just focusing on the speed and efficiency of the project for the solar companies. For us, it's also about the impact we're making. We're creating, utilizing this opportunity to train young people to come and earn in the green economy. And at the same time, take clean energy to the people that need it, right? Who are usually in the faraway rural communities far away from the cities where the solar companies are usually located. So for us, InstallHer means more than a business. It's more about, that family that is lit up, that small rural business. It could be a rural farmer that clean energy is being taken to, and that one technician who earns a decent income. That's really what it is about.
And on that, so let's talk about impact then. How do you measure impact as installers? So are you measuring both the communities that you have kind of provided energy to, and then the resultant outcome of them having access to that energy, and also the individuals who are getting employed, getting work that maybe previously weren't able to access that work, or getting upskilled and trained, right, in this skill set that enables them to get work?
Yeah.
Is it some of that? Is it more of that? Am I on the right track? What's impact from a metrics perspective for you? And then maybe what's impact on a more kind of emotional level for you in terms of like what you really want to, if you look ahead, what you really want to achieve?
So our impact, there are various impact matrices we're measuring, but I would say at the heart and at the core of what we do. So there are three buckets, groups of people who are in touch. So there are the communities, the actual people without energy access. The impact there is a simplification. It's the, getting the energy to them quickly, right? The fact that we've created this network of engineers who help to bring energy super fast and then would continuously sustain it because they are around where that installation has been done. Then for the workforce, the impact we're measuring is decent income, livelihood, right? We're helping them earn in the green economy. And also just to mention, our model is gigging. It's a gig model. So it then means the ecosystem all contributing to support the technician network, right? So they could work for solar company A, on a Monday and work for solar company B on a Tuesday. It
Yeah,
then
yeah,
means the impact for the solar company is also cost reduction, efficiency, simplification of their project management as well. Yeah, so those are the things, but really two main things, taking the energy access and the job creation. Those are the two
yeah.
things that we're really creating, and that's really important to us, more important than our profitability. As long as these two things are happening, we're fine.
Yeah, you're fine, you're happy. And what does that, so to date, what does that impact look like? Are you able to quantify that in terms of the number of people you have supported and kind of changed the lives of, whether that's workforce or communities?
Oh, yeah, sure. So in terms of started this, we launched 2 years ago, 24 months ago. We have trained about 600 technicians. We have a total of 1,100 gig workforce registered on our platform, and 600 of them has been trained by us. In terms of job creation, we have a different way of measuring our job creation impact in terms of the income. In total, what's the income they earn, on a monthly basis is a decent income for them. And we're seeing that the installers on our platform actually earn 2 to 3 times of the minimum wage monthly on a monthly basis. In terms of the communities, the number of homes, these rural businesses we have powered, we have done about 2,500 of those in the last 24 months.
Wow, that's incredible.
Those are our numbers.
Yeah, wow, 2 years. Okay, so if we go back then to the start of those 2 years, go back 2 years ago, and let's talk a little bit about your transition from working in kind of corporate HR world to starting your own business. What did that look like for you? Like, how did you manage that transition and make the decision that you were going to go out and do this and start this on your own?
Yeah,
Like, how
yeah.
how did you get there? And then what were
So
your first steps, like when you made the decision?
it was very difficult. In fact, my husband thought I was crazy. He thought I had gone mad, because I was HR director for English speaking West Africa, right? And I was at that C level in corporate and in decent pay, had official vehicle and, had a good corporate life, right? So when I wanted to go on my own, he thought I was mental. Something was going on. And really never ever thought, I never planned to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. I thought I was actually going to retire in the corporate world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was a push. So something caused a trigger in me. 3, 4 years ago, we had this massive riot youth movement in the country. It was called the NSARS. You could Google it after now, NSARS. So NSARS. And I think it was a time that I had a lot of fear for Nigeria as a country, because I repatriated back to Nigeria. I used to live in the UK 15 years ago when I did a master's and worked in London for a while and moved back to Nigeria in 2008. So this is about 15, 16 years ago. So, but I was fine. I'd always been fine living in Nigeria, coming back home, I had this good career. So going back to the West, was never something for me. I moved back, I started a family and had a good job. I was happy. But that NSAS movement was a period of fear for me. That was the first time I considered actually running back to the UK with my daughter. I had one kid at the time. I was very
Yeah.
scared because of what I noticed. The tons of youth, mass unemployment. It was out there for everybody to see because young boys took on the streets. They were, they were fighting back at the cops, at the military. It was a really,
Mhm.
really fearful time for me. I considered moving back to the UK, right? I was like, okay, I'm just going to take my kid and run away. My husband was not interested to leave. So I was like, okay, I'm going to, go back. But then I said, who will help these people? Because
Mhm.
nobody is actually thinking about the youth. Like I don't see any structured program around helping, willing young people get out of poverty or get into, the workforce, right? I didn't see that. So it was either bail or do something about it.
Think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
You
that
chose the
was,
harder option, arguably.
yeah, and that was the point. That was the decision. At that point I didn't have a choice. I was now being moved by passion, and a genuine desire to contribute to this challenge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just jumped into it. I didn't think much about it. I didn't even, so I knew what I wanted to achieve. I knew that for the business to be able to touch a lot of people, we needed to put technology on it. Because remember, as a HR person, I was used to the traditional way of doing things, right? On the workforce side, it was recruitment, employment. That was a traditional model I knew. But I knew that model would not scale. It would not create a lot of impact, right? And then talking to friends, visualizing it and, mapping it out how it was going to work. It was so clear we needed to put technology on it. And I was clear what that tech should be. And we just started doing it. And fortunately, I had some savings as well. And yeah, we just went at it and just started building, right? One brick at a time,
Yeah.
and that's it. So I think it was that I think NSAS was pushed me.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. It was either make or break.
Yeah.
Bail or do something
Or do
about it.
something.
Yeah,
You
do
chose to do
something.
something.
Yeah, and naturally, I gravitate towards the difficult things. I am not one to choose easy things, right? This is my natural response, right? When something is more challenging, it interests me more. I don't like to do what everybody else is doing, right? And I think, yeah, so I was like, okay, we're going to do it. It looks difficult, but we're going to do it. And yeah, I
Yeah.
just went for it.
And I love that. I love that. Where do you start in terms? So you have a vision, right? So you kind of put that on paper and you start to evolve it and you start to talk to people. But you say that you knew it had to be powered by tech, right? Where do you, as an HR professional, did you have connections in already to people that could help you build that, or where did you go to find those kind of capabilities? Because for me, I'm in a very similar space where I'm looking at like what I want to do that's driven by my purpose, and I know that I need to build it from like I need tech professionals to help build it. I need like developers, and I kind of go like, where does someone start if they're thinking of
Yeah.
starting something like you
Okay,
have?
so I'll tell you the few things I did. So one, I first did a market survey. I surveyed my target customers, right? And I did this myself. I put on a questionnaire, Google Sheet. Fortunately, I've been in the renewable energy sector, so I knew the
You
companies
had the
to
connections.
mail my
Yeah.
survey to. So I mailed it out, asking them if a platform like this existed, would you use it, right? And a couple of other questions to know what sort of challenges they were having. Everybody said to me, if that platform exists, we would use it yesterday. We would have been using it yesterday. So yeah. Then also, I'm also a tech illiterate, right? I studied foreign languages in my first degree. And in my second degree, I studied human resources. I have absolutely nothing. I don't understand the tech world at all. But my HR skill came in knowing that I needed the resources, the humans to assemble the people that would do this. So I actively began to look for a co-founder who was tech to come with me on the journey. And somehow I found some guy within my network as well, my friend's brother who was based in North Carolina. Even though we had time zone differences, but he was willing to come along on the journey. He didn't understand renewable energy, or did he understand what I saw, right? It wasn't his vision, but he was willing to begin to articulate what the technology would be like, right? And we started, and then so I knew I needed to define the processes, the people, and the finance. So finance, I was self-funding. The people was, and I think, and now I'm beginning to think that HR was such a cool job because it helped me to understand what to do in the business, right? And then the market survey, the feedback from the market. And then I was also very bullish about it. Just about the same time, there was an the biggest gathering of solar companies an event called Googler. It was happening in Rwanda. I didn't even have my company registered. I just called them and said, I'm starting this thing and I want to come. I want to have a booth. So I paid a lot of money to go to Googler.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so expensive, but I needed to go because I knew that right under one roof, I would have access to at least 500 solar companies, right? So I went with the mindset to also get feedback around this idea. And then at the same time, my Google or my LinkedIn page, I started advertising for solar workforce to apply to be part of this community. So I went to Googler, to the Googler event with a sheet of about 80 technicians. And I was saying to them, I have a platform of solar technicians. Would you use it, right? And I did most of it, and the response was fantastic. Wow. So I knew right at Googler, I signed on two clients. Two big multinationals said to me, yeah, we like the idea. We want to. So leaving Googler, I spent a lot of money, no doubt, but it was a conviction I needed that I was onto something. Yeah, so those were the things I did initially, right? So find the people, define the process, test the market, talking to the actual people who I was going to sell the service to. And then got back to Nigeria and started building. I hired one staff, and we just started going. So I had one staff, then my co-founder, and we just started articulating. Eventually we got more people. Today we're a team of 8 people. My initial co-founder is no longer on the journey with me as a co-founder. So I am now back as a solo founder. But I have now outsourced all of the tech to an outsourced service. So today what I do is I just, whenever we're in a review meeting and they want to speak this high-tech language, and I said to them, okay, pause. I just want to know if this platform, this tab is doing what I want it to do, yes or no. If it's not doing it, then go back to the drawing board, right? But what we're going to do now is to hire a CTO. We're closing our fundraising round where we're raising $500,000. So we're now going to hire a CTO to be in-house. And so in between in-house tech team and the outsourced service, we continue to build. We have unveiled the first phase 1 of our technology, and there are 3 more phases we need to build, even up to embedding AI as well. So we now need full-time in-house tech people to do that.
Amazing. And I love listening to your journey. I think the thing that you said there about being bullish and just going for it and paying the money to go to the event, but actually it was totally worth it is something to learn from for sure. So you talk about building the team out, and maybe that is a challenge, but I was keen now to kind of deep dive into some of the biggest challenges you've faced over the last couple of years in creating and growing the company. Throughout those challenges, what are those challenges? And then kind of throughout those challenges, how do you stay anchored to your purpose? Because you're obviously clearly super passionate about this and you want this to be successful, and you can really measure the impact you're having on other human beings through the work you do. But how do you stay anchored to that when things get tough? Because that can be hard.
It is. It can be lonely at the top, they say.
Yeah.
So some of the challenges we faced, funding, right, is the big issue. We're bootstrapping this thing for 24 months now. We did get some small grants last year that also helped us as well, gave us some runway. So challenge is a big issue. We faced issues like even finding where the database of the technicians that existed. I think we're just bad around gathering data and keeping data. We couldn't find. So we had to mine the data by ourselves. We created a vetting process. It's like we did the whole work from scratch. So creating that vetting process, because if someone says to us, I'm a solar technician and want to enroll on the platform, how do we even know they're qualified, right? Because
Mm.
we're in a country where if you advertise that you're hiring an accountant, even a truck driver can apply, right? This is the reality of the unemployment we face, right? So we needed a process to know who these people were, what type of qualifications they've had, trainings they've had, the quality of those trainings, because it it didn't exist. No one, even we approached, some of the bodies, associations within the space, and no one could give us data because no one had done that work. So
Interesting.
we needed to do it by ourselves, and we created this whole vetting process. So when people come on the platform and register, even at the time, we were even using Google Forms to do it. We created even exams, questionnaires they needed to answer, and things like that, the things we collected. It was a lot of work, but eventually we cracked it, and that has really saved us from a lot of potential problems that would have happened if we didn't do that. Because what the solar companies were asking at the time was, okay, yeah, beautiful idea. You say I should meet someone on your platform, but how do I know the work this guy is going to do will be quality work? Because this is technical work. How am I sure it's not going to blow up my system? Right. So that also informed us, and this was one of the feedback we got from going to Google, right? So that then informed us that we needed to really vet, and really make sure. So our platform is like actually coming through the needle I sometimes say to ourselves within the team, right? That, oh my God, we're putting these people
Yeah.
through nightmare. Like the only thing we don't collect from them is their DNA samples, because we're collecting a lot of questions and data from them to make that determination that they are qualified, and then to categorize them to know who we need to train, who was okay, what level of training we need, things like that. That was very difficult, apart from the funding. Then I think another thing I struggled with was fundraising. I mean, this basically threw me into a whole new world. I never knew how to, so it took a while to know how to navigate what the investors were looking for. And so something I struggled with there was, so yeah, they like the impact, but then they challenge your revenue. We basically, we're disruptors, right? We've introduced something, a model that is basically new to the entire ecosystem, to a whole sector. We're basically disrupting a sector. So basically, I felt it was a bit unfair to be judged on the both metrics at the same time, because we're asking solar companies to trust a new model. Sometimes we had to do it pro bono. Sometimes we had to,
Mm.
just ask them, okay, just pilot, use, because we needed credibility, right? We
Yeah.
needed to test. So for the first year, our revenue was really low. And then investors say, oh yeah, I really like the business model. I really like the impact, but your revenue. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So, we struggled a lot with that. I had to burn night candles just to even understand the whole finance and investment world, what it meant, what this and that. Also, at the same time, balancing, driving the business and joining some of the accelerator programs, the coaching, the mentoring. It was good, but and also I have a young family as well. I've got young kids. I've got
Yeah.
3 kids under 12. So yeah.
It's a lot, yeah, and it's hard. I've noticed that there's a lot of coaching and mentoring offered, but then actually you have to figure out how much time you spend on that and whether it's providing you enough value to actually give you time to do the stuff for your business,
Yeah.
and then family and life on top of that.
Yeah.
Is there a hack? Is there a life hack you've figured out for this, or do we just have to like try our best, and kind of find the balance?
Right.
And accept that maybe in the first few years it's just going to be full on with work, and
Yeah.
that's what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, so if there is a hack, if at all, I would say. So I think in life generally, it's this is, so I've put it in 3 buckets. So it's work, it's family, and it's your social life, right? You can fit in everything within these three buckets. So I don't have any social life because it's not possible, right? It's between work and my family. So
And
if at
family.
all there's a hack, I would say one has to suffer and you have to choose which one it is. So for me, there is no social life. But thankfully, I think in the startup space as well, some of the meetups, the meetings sometimes feel like a social event.
Give you a little bit. Yeah.
It's work, but
Yeah.
socializing, and so it's not too bad. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I also think one big benefit I've had is also living in Africa at this point in time because I'm able to
Yeah.
afford helps, and also I'm able to be close to family who can also help me. I don't know if
Yeah.
I would have been able to raise young children and also grow a startup at the same time. Because I say to people, I have three startups because I have twin boys who are toddlers. They're 2 years old,
Wow.
right? And really it happened almost at the same time. And I don't know if I would have been able to do this living anywhere else in the world if I wasn't in
Yeah.
Nigeria. So that I think was also a blessing in disguise
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me as well.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Two twin boys on top of
I
starting
know.
your own business.
So
Hats off
I
to
have
you. That is
a
incredible.
12
You're
year old
crazy.
daughter. I have a 12-year-old daughter. So at the time I had the boys, she was 10. And yeah, and that's it. I mean, she's helpful. She's little mama bear as well.
I'm sure she's learning as well, the
Yeah,
business stuff from you,
she
all the business hacks.
is. She is. Yeah.
Well, let's actually touch on, you mentioned doing it in Africa, and obviously I've had a little bit of insight into the Africa Tech ecosystem through Africa Tech Summit. For me, there's an energy in Africa that just is unparalleled to anywhere else that I've been. I always say when I go to conferences in Africa, I walk in and there's just like this palpable energy of
Yeah.
people just wanting to do stuff. And I never experienced that in the UK when I went to conferences there. Let's talk a little bit about the Africa Tech ecosystem. And I'm keen to talk about collaboration as well, because on this podcast, I'm bringing on people from startups, from corporations, from government, and from charities. I'm really keen to talk to people from all different sectors doing purposeful things. What is the opportunity across the Africa Tech ecosystem for the work that you're trying to do in renewable energy? For collaboration, is there an ask that you would have of others across that ecosystem, whether they are governments, corporates, other startups, charities even, that you could almost ask them that would help you achieve what you're trying to achieve with Installer? And what does the collaboration in Africa feel like? Is it easy? Is it not so easy? Kind of, yeah. It'd be good to get a bit of insight into that.
So I think Africa is challenging, right? It's one of the most difficult places to live in the world, right? In terms of infrastructural deficit, I mean, just imagine the
Mm,
number of power cuts I've had even on this call, right? Things like water, the roads, the education. There's just a lot of stuff coming at us as Africans. But you cannot deny that energy. And a lot of people have asked, what is it about Africa, particularly Nigerians? So I was in Berlin in March and talking to this lady, and she was like, every Nigerian I meet is brilliant, is excellent, is energetic. What is it? What do you guys drink in your water? She was asking, like,
I agree.
yeah, she was
The
like,
Nigerians have a
there's got to be
reputation. You guys are
something like,
like,
what is it about Nigerians? And I paused for a moment and I said to her, maybe it's a realization that no, it looks like nobody's coming to help us, and we have decided to help ourselves. So
yourselves.
so that is that push, you see, because no one is going to push you. We have realized that even government is crawling. It's like a crawl. It's, they take 2 steps forward and they're taking 3 steps backward. We seem to be like in the
Mm,
same spot. So I think Africans, both educated, non-educated ones, everyone is just finding a way to make a difference within their space. And that, I think, is the push you see, their realization that, oh my God, I got to do this for myself. Because, like in the UK, where is the push? You've got everything. Your transportation system is working. So, by the way, I have family that live in the UK, right? Because I said to you, I lived
mm,
in the UK for a bit. Everything works, right? And why do you have to sweat? Even when you don't have a job, the government will pay you something, right? You would not be homeless. You
mm.
would have food. I think that sort of also kills the hunger in people. We're hungry on this continent. We're hungry for success. We're hungry to make a difference. We have relatives back home that, need help. So I think it's this realization that is a push. So you asked about collaboration. Yes, the problem, the place, and I think we are collaborating. So me, for example, in my business, because we're sort of touching different aspects of things. Sometimes several companies think we're competition. And I said to them, no, I don't see a competitor in the market. I think we're ecosystem enablers. But even at that, the problem is so huge, no one company can solve it, right?
Yeah.
So why should we compete? I think we should collaborate, instead. So in some spaces, there's collaboration. I, for one, like I said, I'm a tech illiterate building a tech company. So I need to collaborate with the tech world, right? I need collaboration with the people. I've even applied to some tech programs which I didn't get into. I'm sure they'll be like, oh no, she's not tech. She's not going to understand. But I'm hungry for the knowledge. So in terms of what I need knowledge. We need a lot of help. We're tackling. I was in another interview a few days ago, and the lady said to me, you're making hard work look easy. What you're doing is difficult. And I know it's very difficult, but we've got to do it. So there is so much help we need. Unfortunately, we are now closing our fundraise. So we have two big investors coming with us on the journey. And I already feel relief, right?
Good
Just
way. Yeah, lifted.
having these people to lean on, apart from the money they are bringing, their intellect, because you can never see it all, right? So I've started this vision, but other people's contribution, they can also bring in something to see how we can make it faster or make it better. And I already feel relief, even with the little help that we've started at, because we haven't received the fund yet. We haven't announced yet, but, just being in that meeting, agreeing that we're going to work together, and the conversation that's already going on already gives me, I'm beginning to breathe down.
You can breathe a little bit.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm
absolutely.
beginning to breathe a little bit. So I think here we can never underestimate the power of collaboration and what we can do when we collaborate together. Yeah, it's a huge problem, Megan. There's 600 million people on this continent without electricity. It's a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. And just on that, so those 600 million people uh, across the continent, if you were to put a really aspirational kind of timeline on it, what does it take? What does it really, really, truly take in terms of cross-sector collaboration, the work that you guys are doing? What does it take to change that trajectory, to reduce that 600 million to zero or to 100 million? How long will that take, and what does it take, in your opinion?
So I think there is a Mission 300 goal that's now been. I think there was a meeting earlier on this year in Tanzania, where a lot of African presidents, and clean energy and energy access was a big topic, and they have decided, like, okay, let's break it down, right, and in milestones. And the most realistic goal we're working with now is the Mission 300, which is that by 2030 we should at least bring out 300 million people out of this energy poverty. I think that is very achievable, because 5 years, right? 300 million. So we can say 60 million per year across African continent. There's a lot of investment also coming in, private companies, organizations, NGOs. So I see a genuine effort, by even the global north to help Africa out of this challenge. What I would like to see is a commensurate effort by the African government, right? Because sometimes it looks like we pay lip service to the problem. Like, we go for these big conferences, we speak all the big, we talk the talk, we speak the language, right? We have the evidence, but I think the action is not as much. Yeah, I don't think, as Africans, we need to come out of this arms given type of mentality, right? So now that we have the help, we have the arms, let's also put in the work. Let's also, go with that and actually bring people, convert this support we're getting into actually getting people out of poverty. Not sometimes the solutions I also see, I don't think are sustainable, right? So
Oh, yeah.
let's focus on solutions that will actually create an impact. Economic empowerment rather than just arms given, right? Sometimes some of these programs funnel down as arms giving, not really empowerment. Empower people so they can then carry on. And that is why we think the job creation element of it that we're doing, the model works. And that is why we also, in our own way, introduce the InstallHer initiative, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Because what I noticed just running this thing, 8 months into running this business was, where are the women? We pay our installers every Friday, right? It's a weekly wages model, and we were not paying. So when the list comes to me to make, release the money, there are no women on the list. I'm like, where are the ladies? Where are they? And then they say to me, oh, we don't have women on the platform. I'm like, why? So as a female founder, it wasn't sitting well with me, because women are the ones who suffer most in the communities and in the family from the energy poverty. It's that rural woman who cooks with unclean cooking methods, right? She's the one suffering directly, being impacted directly by the smoke from coal or charcoal, or wood, whatever she's using to cook. So I said, no, we needed to do something. We need to do something about it, because we had barely 1% women on our platform. So we launched InstallHer, right? It's a solar, and InstallHer really is a solar training program designed as a 3 weeks boot camp, where we bring in women who are passionate to earn in the clean economy, and we offer in the green economy, and we offer them hands-on training, mentorship, and then we even support them with transportation and feeding during that 3 weeks, just so nobody drops out, and this has taught me that there is actually talent everywhere. We just need to put more work. Sometimes it needs a little push, because what we realized was, when we started and naturally, right, even when I identify a problem or a gap, I like to be a bit theoretical, like find what is the reason, get some data around why that is happening. So we realized that there are a lot of reasons why women don't also play as solar technicians. There are the cultural barriers women face, religious barriers women face. So imagine some type of cultural dressing or religious dressing could also impede a girl from climbing the roof, right? Because she's mandated to dress in that, certain style.
Yeah.
Of course, there's also the fear of height that some women also face. So we created a special curriculum to eliminate all of those barriers. And what we're saying to women is just show interest, show up, have an interest, commit to it.
Yeah.
And commit to the process, and we would help you, show you how to earn. So women, either when they complete, they either pivot as a solar technician, or they pivot into direct sales agency with the solar companies, so they can be the sales agent of those products within their communities and any commission, and can also carry out minor installation or maintenance of those products as well, sort of like help them create an agency, or how they can earn an income. And it's amazing to see, what has come out of the first cohort.
Yeah.
We're starting our second cohort in June. We've raised some grants to support this initiative, and it's exciting. Super excited to see that.
Wow, yeah, I was you got ahead of me. I was going to touch on that because that's one of the things that inspire me most about the work that you do is
Mhm.
that piece on Install Her. It's incredible. How many women go through your cohorts?
Okay, so for each cohort, we have 30 women per cohort. Yeah, but this time, so we're running 3 cohorts in the next 12 months. We already have the people doing 100 women this time. So maybe we'll have like 33 each cohort. Yeah. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
And how do you attract the women and what sort of women? Is it women from these rural areas that are coming and learning with you guys and then able to go back into those rural communities and effectively build the
Absolutely,
solutions?
absolutely. So it's really
Wow.
actually converting rural women to solar, to be solar installers. So the whole idea, right, it still ties back to the vision of creating a supportive network to support the ecosystem, right? At the same time,
Hmm.
creating employment. So it ties to the same goal, which is creating the workforce on the ground in the community to support the solar companies who have come with the technology and the money, make it easier for them to get to the people who need the access, and also maintain those systems at the same time and an income. Right, so we're sort of killing 2 birds with one stone.
Two birds, yeah,
Yeah, so that
yeah.
that model.
Or quite a few birds by the
Yeah,
sound of it,
quite a
yeah.
few birds actually with one giant
Yeah.
stone. Yeah, so that's really one. It's a really beautiful model, and even install her. It's I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Wow. And did the women find it challenging? Because you're saying obviously there's a lot of different barriers, from cultural
Hmm.
barriers to physical barriers, where they're kind of scared of heights. But is there also kind of, I don't know, intellectual barriers? So a lot of women won't have studied this, and arguably a lot, very stereotypical, but people will think that men know how to do that work better.
Hmm.
What are the challenges you face into when the women come to the cohort, to the program? What are the biggest challenges? Is there any kind of case studies of a woman who has joined reluctantly and then found out that actually it's not as hard as
Yeah.
maybe she thought?
Yeah. So yes, it is. To be honest, it is challenging, right? Because it's technical work. We're getting them into. And so for our first cohort, we had no barriers around who will be trained. Just show up, have passion. Do you want to do this? Are you committed? Do you have passion? Come
Just
in.
come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we secured the funding. So we're offering it to them free, right? Including feeding and transportation. And then the whole idea as well was we didn't want the training to stop there after our training. So we reached out to our solar partners to offer internship. So from our training, they should go into a 6 months internship attached to a solar company, right? So the 3 months boot camp is like a foundational,
Okay. Yeah.
thing for them, and then they continue learning hands-on within its actual proper solar job, which they do for 6 months, right? And so that's the model. So it's the 3 months boot camp. They go for a 6 months internship with a solar company. And then, but what we've seen is most of the solar companies retained them after that six
Mm,
months. Some of the girls, because life is also happening, some people had to go, family, whatever. We saw some people who then further their education within renewables because of that push
amazing.
we had given to them. But we also, a learning for us as well was we also got a lot of pushback from the companies, from the sector, right? To say, I only need a woman who has a background in STEM, right? She
Mm,
should have a technical background. And then I'm like, listen, this is a CSR. Give those people opportunity. So for our first cohort, we were able to place about 60 to 70% of the women because of this challenge. And now, actually, my team and I were beginning to ask ourselves for the second cohort, do we also want to put this requirement, so that way we have 100% placement. And it's also beginning to get us to think of what we could do. Maybe we want to also start a Catch Them Young program, right?
yeah, yeah, that's what I was just thinking there because
Yeah,
I also I heard through I listened to some of the MasterCard Foundation stuff and that they're doing in Africa, and they talk a lot about the fact that women drop out of education at a much higher rate than men across Africa for multiple reasons.
yeah,
often start families,
Yeah,
etc., or they have to look after the home. So their women aren't necessarily making it through education at the same rate as men in Africa, which is actually probably a wider global issue as well, but maybe more prominent in Africa. So yeah, there's something in that, right? In terms of making
yeah,
it kind of cyclical. How do you
abs-
get them through the right education system, encourage women into STEM to then create the pipeline of talent?
absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. So it looks like we're going to unveil another
Yeah,
program
I know,
again.
but you can only do so much. I know.
We can only do so
You've only been
much,
doing this
but
for two
yeah,
years. You're trying to build a
yeah,
business.
yeah.
Yeah,
There are people we can collaborate with. I've spoken to a few people
yeah,
who run something similar. We just need to embed a female young girls element into it. Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, it's exciting. It's interesting.
Really, it's amazing. Great. I do want to move on to your legacy and reflections, but just before I do, something you mentioned about kind of sustainability of the work that you do, it made me think there's kind of some pushback around solar in terms of the sustainability, the cost of
Mhm.
integrating solar and sustainability of it. And I guess what you're trying to do through your work is sort of is that analogy of teach a person to fish or give them the fish, right? You're teaching them to fish. You're teaching them to continue to build and fix and grow the renewable and solar energy ecosystem within their individual communities. But how do you face into that challenge in terms of is solar the right solution for the long term, and how kind of I guess you're solving that through maybe integrating those people into the communities that can support the solar ecosystem to thrive and continue there.
Yeah, so solar is expensive. There is no doubt about that. But what we're also seeing is there are solutions coming up to tackle that challenge, right? We're beginning to see a lot of financing solution come in. We're seeing pay-as-you-go solutions. I mean, one of our biggest customers, Coolbox, they have their solar freezers embedded with pay-go devices where even now they're offering women daily pay, right? You can pay every
Yeah,
day. A woman who uses the freezer to sell cold drinks, for example, can then, from her revenue pay for, they break down the costs even, daily, right? It makes it
yeah,
easier for them to
then
afford,
to manage.
yeah, for them to
Yeah,
manage rather than, a huge lump sum payment. So we're seeing those type of solutions. There are several, we're working with a lot of solar financing companies as well. So yeah, so I think people acceptability. A lot of people are accepting solar, and also petrol has become even more expensive. For example, for us in
mm,
Nigeria, petrol and diesel, the
yeah,
cost went up like by almost, I don't know, 500%. Um, so there is no doubt clean energy is the solution for us. And we're seeing more players coming to break down all of these challenges that people are facing, tackling it in different ways. And I'm hoping that we would achieve our mission 300 by 2030. And how we are supporting this is by growing that workforce and also to maintain the systems, because part of the challenge of solar, the perception is that it doesn't work. It doesn't work because there is no network of people to sustain and maintain it. Even something as simple as cleaning the panels after 6 months, 12 months of installation. If I live in a two-bedroom, I mean two floor duplex, for example, and my solar panel is on my rooftop, I need someone to come help me clear off the
yeah,
dust and the dirt that affect the radiation and durability of my solar. So this is what we're doing. This is how we see it. If there is, if you have a group, a team of network of engineers around the communities, then it's
yeah,
easier, it's cheaper, it's easier, you know.
yeah, yeah. It'll be true cross ecosystem. Everyone's playing their part in this, right? And you're a core
Absolutely.
fundamental part of that. But it's going to be really cross ecosystem kind of solutions that all come
Yeah,
together. So, two more questions. I
yeah.
just wanted to talk about the 2030 goals, which are fantastic. But you, as we discussed, you've been 2 years building this business and had some great success by the sounds of it. It's really exciting what you've achieved in such a short space of time. You're giving me hope that it's that you can do a lot in 2 years.
Yeah.
But if you look forward to the future of Installer, what legacy do you really want to leave? Like, what would you be really proud of saying? Say, I don't know, 5, 10 years down the line from now, and you look back. What do you want to be able to say, like, is your legacy?
Interesting. So, in terms of how I see it, right? We're building a movement to empower young Africans, right? And the goal for us is very clear. What we need to do is very clear. So we've tested our model in Nigeria, fortunately, the largest market in Africa. We've cut our teeth with all of the nuances and everything. We haven't even scratched the surface of the Nigerian market, but we're beginning to discuss duplicating this model outside of Nigeria, because the partners we work with, most of them are in 30, 20, 40 countries across Africa. And they say to us, you've helped simplify this for us in Nigeria. Can you come and do the same thing, replicate the same model in other places where we're also pushing our product? So that then helps us achieve a larger goal, which is to really empower millions of Africans by 2030, a short-term goal, empower more women, train a lot of technicians, penetrate the East African and the Francophone West African markets. These are the areas, the countries we've identified to go build up our tech to be able to do more things than it can do.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more. I was saying to you, we're at phase 1 of our tech development. We have up to 3-4 more phases. Since our model is gigging, we would like to offer things like micro pension, micro health plans, micro health insurances for our workforce. So they're also not left out, because this is what most times people get from getting a full-time job, right? But we'd like to also plug in those type of solutions for them as well. There are also several other things that we're seeing can come out of this business model that is even being driven by the customers we serve. What I can tell you, Megan, is we're building the next unicorn out of Africa. But for me, when I look back and see that we have empowered millions of people, to just the way I was empowered, right, by my single mom growing up in Niger Delta through education and economic empowerment. That for me is a legacy I want to see. When we have achieved that, we've touched the lives of millions of young people. We've helped them to learn how to fish through solar skills, train them to be solar technicians, to have the skill to work in the sector and empower women, young people. That's really what I would like to see. And then also, sometimes when we analyze our data in our monthly performance review meetings, and I'm asking, okay, so how many out of those 500 projects we did, how many women, how many fish sellers did we empower, how many cold drink sellers did we take solutions to, how many farmers? And they are giving me the numbers. That excites me. How many jobs have we created? Those are the type of things that's meaningful for me.
Yeah, your passion alone will do all of that. I just believe it. I can feel it through the video. You really are doing your solution for me. It's just at the perfect kind of interchange between both societal change and helping people as well as helping the planet, right?
Absolutely.
So it's just, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And the final question I ask everybody on this podcast, what does making it matter mean to you? Which you've maybe touched on a little bit there, but
so why? Someone asked me, so what's a nice girl like you do with solar installations? Like, out of all the things you could do, why did you decide it was solar? And why does it matter to you? Yeah, why? I think, and for me, it's really about impact, right? The fact that we can push the needle, right? Push the needle for that rural woman. My mom, so I talk about my mom a lot these days, and of blessed memory, she's late now. She used to say to me, Chichi, so my family members call me Chichi. She used to say, she said, Chichi, if you're going to sell pure water, so pure water is sachet water. We have portable drinking water is an infrastructure we don't have in Nigeria. So to get water, drinking water to the bottom of the pyramid, it's in sachet, plastic bags, right?
Hmm.
This is what people at the last mile can afford. So she used to say to me, like, even if you were selling pure water, like, if you grow up and this is the only thing you can do to sell sachet water to feed yourself, make sure you're the best pure water seller on the earth. Like on that street, nobody, you should be the best. You should make sure your water is clean. You've put it in the right way, in the right, you've done it really right, and everybody's coming to you. That's excellence, right? The excellence we bring every day. The fact that every day we wake up, my team and I, we bring our best self to tackling this challenge to make sure we move the needle, to make sure that in our own way we've actually created an impact, an actual lasting impact for that rural woman, that rural boy. 2 days ago, we were talking to a new company that we've been discussion with, and we're looking at our pricing model, and it was looking like the deal was not going to go through, right? Because what they were proposing didn't fit into our framework. And my team, our operations manager, was almost, he was texting me behind the scene to like, oh no, I don't think we can work with these people. And I said to him, no, we're going to work with them. He was like, why? We're not going to make money. I said, yes, we may not make money, but what you're asking us to do will create jobs for people in faraway rural Nigeria. That is enough. We don't have to make money now. The money will come, right? And he was, after the call, he called me, he's like, boss, I don't like this. I said, yes, we're going to do it. It's true, right? So we have guys there who we've not been able to give them a lot of opportunities because we don't have any companies trying to penetrate there. They didn't have the type of product that could fit. And this huge, UK company with the right smaller home systems, trying to penetrate that market. And I was saying this will create jobs for the guys there. So let's do it. As long as the guys get jobs, we would get our reward later. They were like, oh no, this is not about Christianity. I said, no, it's not about Christianity either. It's not a question of our reward is in heaven. No, the reward also, I was enlightening him to say the reward also is the jobs we create. So this is the why for me, right? This is what makes it matter.
Yeah.
Matter for me,
You're clearly driven by your gut, right? You just know whether that's the right decision or not, and actually not driven just by the money and the
yeah,
revenue. It's
yeah, yeah,
actually, is
yeah,
this the right thing to
yeah,
do for the people?
yeah,
And that's where all this started, if I feel like for you, which just makes so much sense.
yeah.
Chinwe, thank you so much. It was honestly a privilege to have this conversation with you. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.